Cool. All right. We are live.
Awesome. Hi,
I
everybody.
want to I want to be like Johnny Lieberman. Hi, everybody.
You used to do that anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I actually still do that on videos. I made 2 videos today, and it was exactly the same thing. I guess if anybody Facebook Lives, I wonder if we look at like how many people are just waving their hands awkwardly at the screen, hoping that it's on. That like is it on? Is it on? Oh, hey, it's on. Hi.
I think everybody has a intro or way that they start a video, and I bet you if you watch like everyone's videos, they're all exactly the same way that they start.
Absolutely. All right. So for those of you guys who are here already, you jumped out ahead of us. We have Hal or Hallie, Tammy from Canada, from Columbus. Feel free to say hello. We got Peter here from Sydney. Peter, is that the Peter? I know your last name's is it Hilton? No, it's not Hilton, but Hinton. Sorry. What's going on, guys? Okay, cool. So yeah, obviously, guys, feel free to get intimate with the chat box there.
And if this is your first time or you haven't worked with us, let us know. And if you're in one of our courses already, or wherever you are in the process, just let us know so we know who's here. We've kind of figured out of late that a lot of people that actually are already participating in our courses still find these to be of enough value that they keep coming to these free ones as well.
Danira, awesome. Welcome.
Wait, is this Adriana from Romania? Like,
I think we did the same thing last time, and it was a different Adriana.
A different Adriana.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Danira from Phoenix. I think you were Danira. I think you were with us last time, if I'm not mistaken.
We got Timmy here. I think she said hello already. Cool. Awesome, guys.
Trish Davies. I'm trying to put
faces to names.
Okay. De Niro was with us. Yeah, and also if you guys have any specific questions and you want to get them in the box before anybody else, now would be a great time. And in about a minute or two, we'll start doing the intro. Is my video coming in choppy or clear?
On my side, you're clear.
You're clear? Okay. On mine, it's like showing a little bit delayed. Sunny Florida. Man, we're going global today. We got Australia, Canada, Colorado, Columbus, Romania, Phoenix, Florida. We can do a battle for best weather.
Yeah. Right now, I think we're winning. But guys, yeah, we'll get started here in about another minute or so. We usually just like to let people kind of get situated and get in front of their computers. If you're coming in from a mobile device, we do recommend desktop experience if you have the capacity to get in front of one, just a little bit bigger, and some of the software things are a little bit easier to work with, but honestly, it really works on any device, so it's really up to you. And yeah, I think let's start doing the intro. Yeah.
Okay. So while I'm doing the intro, I highly recommend if you came here, obviously we call this the Abundance Masterclass for a reason. So if you came here, I'm sure you are seeking new ways to create abundance in your life, whether that's financial, whether that's abundance of time, whether it's an abundance of love, self-love, or abundance of an amazing body, whatever your thing is, feel free to drop the questions in the chat box while we're doing the quick little intro. We won't spend a lot of time doing the intro because this call is really all about you. So we want to save as much time. So this whole thing is going to be about 90 minutes long, start to finish. So we'll wrap this up at 6 p.m. New York time, whatever that is for you guys. The intention of the call, let me start with that. The intention of the call is to give you an experience of what it's like to work with Guy and I. So there's no holding back here. You're going to get full live coaching experience of how we work and what we do. All of this is completely unscripted. This is going to be totally on the fly. And the way that we've chosen to do this for a couple of reasons. One, I know that this is going to give you the most value possible, because at the end of the day, if we came here with a slideshow and an agenda, then we're going to be talking about what we want to talk about and have nothing, it has nothing to do with what you want to necessarily hear or what you might need to hear, quote unquote. So that's the first thing. And the other one is we like to have fun. So when we did the whole slideshow thing, we got bored. We didn't put energy. It just didn't feel like us. So this is very organic. This is how we operate, just so you know, in any of our courses and coaching programs. It's a very, very similar experience. Obviously, in those, we will dive probably a lot deeper because we get to know you over time. We get to know your patterns, your belief systems. So we'll be able to do that. But you'll definitely get a really, really good taste, and that's the intention. So a little about Guy and I, we started Satori Prime more as an idea than a business, I believe, about 7 years ago. We just celebrated our 7th year anniversary this past June, which is really, really exciting. And we've both been in the personal development space since 2003. So collectively between us, you have over 30 years worth of experience. And that experience varies from different seminars to different courses, a whole bunch of coaches, breath work, meditation classes, NLP, neuroscience, plant medicines, and really everything in between. And what we've done over the past 15 years is taken all of that knowledge, put it into practice in our lives, experienced it, figured out what works, what's really practical, what just sounds smart and maybe hokey, and turned it into something that I believe can create transformation in people's lives in a very, very short window. I mean, like, amazing results, from people earning more money than they ever imagined, to getting in the best shape of their lives with effortless ease, to finding true love, to moving cross country without the fear of, oh my God, what's this? But rather creating that with excitement, to rebuilding relationships with loved ones who they haven't spoken to for decades, to having amazing relationship with their kids, and everything in between. And so whatever you came here to get, our intention is to provide that for you. So if there's anything else that you guys feel like you want to know from us, by all means, just ask. But again, I really want to focus on you rather than us. And yeah, I'd love to jump in. Do we have any, I didn't check, but do we have any questions as of yet? You're muted.
Sometimes you hit that button, sometimes it works, sometimes it does not.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't know if we were specific in asking. Here you go. So there's one that just came in, guys. But yeah, just to be really clear, like Ilan said, this webinar is really generated by the people who attend. So this is really about you guys asking questions. Now, what we find a lot of times is people just ask very general questions like, how do I feel good? And then it's like, okay. So you're going to get a really broad answer from us if you ask that kind of question. The more specific you could get with the current circumstance that you're dealing with, any particular things that might be relevant for us to know, we can then give you a very specific answer depending on what's going on for you. And a lot of times these are insightful things that we might talk about with our clients who are paying us, $3,000 to $10,000 a month. So, we really don't hold very much back on these webinars, if anything at all. I don't know that Ilan and I know how to hold anything back. So just, get really specific with those questions. Again, for Peter, he says he's been struggling with self-worth with clients in his business. So I think I know which Peter that is, but even so, exactly, Ilan wrote, Peter, just get really specific with what's going on for you, and we'll talk about that. All right, so
yeah, we can start with Tammy. I think that's a good place to start. And Peter, what we mean by specific, and I'll just give you an example. So that question is very broad, right? Like, you're dealing with self-worth issues. That means that Guy and I can take this probably in about 1,007 different ways. Okay. If you were to say more specifically, like, hey, I'm getting on the phone with clients, and every time I get on the phone with clients, this is occurring, or this is the result that I keep producing, and this is where I get stopped, and it's just really specific to one instance. Here's the thing you guys need to get. One instance, very, very specific instance in your life, like this conversation happened with my sister, and this and this and this happened, is a microcosm for your entire life. I'll give you one of the greatest mantras that's changed my entire life. And that is, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Now, that doesn't mean, I know the logic, literal ones out there are going to be like, well, that's not possible because I don't eat the same way I work out. To which I'd say probably you do, but that's a different story. I don't need you to get locked on that. This is just think of it like a pair of glasses that you can get a different perspective from. Because if you understand that this is a microcosm of the whole thing, then now you have access to reveal patterns in your life. Patterns are what Guy and I are really good at recognizing. Mm-hmm. That's why when you ask a question, which seems very, very simple, because we've coached by this time probably 10,000 people each, we've seen a lot of you, and I mean like the collective you. So while we all think we're unique snowflakes, certain conversations and certain patterns are triggered because by the time you're about 7 or 8 years old, all of your operating system was pretty much put in place, minus a few things here and there. So, up to a 7-year-old, most of our life experiences were actually pretty similar. And the things that a 7-year-old can make up are also pretty similar. And so just because you might be 30, 40, 50, or 60 years old, I will just venture to say that you're still a 7-year-old trapped in whatever how old your body is. And that's what gives us the ability to share these insights with you. So cool. I know Peter expanded there, but let's start with Tammy. And
let's start with Tammy because she was first.
Yeah.
So Tammy writes, I'm going to broadcast this to everybody while I'm reading it, is how do you deal with a particularly bad day? I find myself in situations where I feel like I'm in such great flow. Then one day I'll wake up and everything will feel like it's going to shit. Negative thoughts creep in and all of a sudden it feels everything is going wrong. How do you deal with those kind of days?
So while you're answering that, and I'll let you answer that, Tammy, while he's answering the first part of this, if you really want to make this effective, I would share what are the actual thoughts that you've noticed on those mornings.
Exactly. Yeah. Because
like what...
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, because certainly we've all experienced that, right? Like that there's nothing inherently unique about that, which is good news because that means there are strategies and all sorts of things you can kind of become aware of to help with those type of things. But like Ilan said, what do you tell yourself when that's happening is going to be very insightful into your kind of psychology in the face of these kind of things showing up. Right before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know I'm publishing a poll right now that's just going to ask you what area of life are you wanting to work on during this webinar. For those of you who just came on here to explore, at least you can start looking at, okay, I know now this is the area that I want to work on. Then think of something specific in that area of life for you, and then we'll go to town on that, right? So, of course, listen while these are going on. But again, right, as many questions as we can get in the chat box, we'll get to as many of them as we possibly can. So, right, so Tammy's dealing with like the bad day blues, okay? And Tammy, I don't know how long you've been doing development, if any at all, or any of your background. So, I'm going to assume that there's some kind of awareness and background here. And if not, obviously, let me know. That's fine. It doesn't really matter whether you're beginner or super advanced with personal development. Certainly, we all need reflections and errors. Ilan and I have been working on this stuff for 16 years. We continuously have different coaches that help us reflect different aspects of ourselves and each other to all the time, right? And that's kind of my point, is that the humanness is going to show up. Okay, the humanity always arises, no matter how present or aware you become. It's funny, right? Because when we start doing a lot of work and we have major insights and transformations, you get to a point where your belief might be somewhere along the lines of, okay, like that's handled, right? Like that is handled, finance is handled, my health is like handled. And then like this circumstance shows up, triggers something inside the system. At first it might be this small little thing you barely even notice. Like you're driving on a highway and this like idea gets in, but you're like beaming because you're having such a good day. A week later, we're in crisis mode. What went wrong? How did this happen? Why do I feel this way? I'm not supposed to feel this way. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, Tammy, is like what's the response to when stuff like that is happening? And here's the thing. We say this pretty much on every single webinar, but it's always worth reiterating. if you're experiencing something, sadness, depression, anger, joy, laughter, whatever it might be, and you're experiencing it, whether in the past, in the now, or you're expecting it in the future, if you've experienced it, you're going to experience it again. Bottom line. Where people get hurt is in the shoulda, woulda, couldas. Because the shoulda, I should have done that. I should have known better. I could have done it differently. If I would have known, I would have done it like this, right? All those different things. It basically leads to using guilt on ourselves, shame, guilt, things like that. We make ourselves wrong, like I should have known better, right? I make myself wrong in an attempt to kind of deal with what's going on. And if you investigate that, you'll find that that strategy actually prolongs the experience. Because now instead of getting present to what's going on, allowing for that experience to happen there, that energy creates a resistance point in the body. The energy that's trying to rise actually can't move. We do this through thought. We do this through contractions in our body. We do it through all sorts of different ways. But even in language, we can find, right, like, I don't want to do that. That's tells you energistically there's some kind of resistance in the body. You're pushing back on that thing, and now it doesn't have the ability to move. So if you think about these emotions that are coming up, we like to split that word and call it energy in motion. And you know that every thought you have has a correlating energy inside your body, right? Like I can't think about, oh, I'm angry and just have the thought I'm angry. I'm actually having a visceral energy experience in my body. And then I can locate it in my body, be like, okay, I'm really angry here, right? It's usually where it happens. When they thermograph anger, it's actually like here, like your body actually lights up like a Christmas tree on the top half. But a lot of the anger is placed in here. And then what people do is they say, well, I've already done this work. I can't believe I'm angry again. So here's the switch. Here's the flip. Again, if you're experiencing it, you're going to continue to experience it, which means it's part of your DNA. It's part of the biomechanics of the body. There's nothing wrong with feeling anger. There's nothing wrong with feeling sad. There's nothing wrong with feeling depressed. There's nothing wrong with any of these things. Where a lot of us have that it's wrong is because we've never been in a space, usually, where we've been angry or sad and you're still held in love while that's happening. Usually if somebody's angry, we're trying to shut them down and tell them stop being angry. If somebody's sad, we're trying to cheer them up. Our whole lives have been about I express what I am, and then someone tells me to be different. We have this conversation in society. We have to fix everybody. We need to change things. And even though a lot of times that's done with best intentions, that subconscious programming sends a signal down to the body that says it's not okay to be this way. And because of that, then we're constantly in an argument with it. So the switch here is to notice that really everything that's coming into your experience, whether it's those negative aspects or positive aspects, it's actually those determinations, whether it's positive or negative, that are causing the problems for most of us. Because if I'm happy and I'm like, oh, this is good, now I'm attached to my happiness. I'm also now very susceptible to other people fucking with my happiness or something happening during my day that could ruin my happiness. Because my expectation is that I can live at this energy all the time, instead of noticing that energies are like this. They ebb and flow, they ebb and flow, they ebb and flow. Same thing with sadness, right? Have you ever been sad and had it stick around forever? No. You ever been happy and had it stick around forever? No, right? It's ebbing and flowing all the time. So where we want to get you to, and this is not just a psychological, although we'll talk about it from a psychological place, even deeper is how to accept all this and relax into it in the system, is that whatever is happening right now is perfect. Your emotions, right? If it's happening in the present, the opinion that you have that it shouldn't be here doesn't change the fact that it's here. All there is here, now. This is it. This is what's happening. Whether I want to go back to a moment in my past, or that's creating anxiety, or I want to move into the future and I have anxiousness about that, whatever it might be, still all there.
Oh, look at that face. Did you guys lose him? Is he frozen? I think he froze. He froze on my end. I'm not sure if he's frozen on yours. Are you guys still there? Can you hear me? Frozen. Okay, cool. Thanks, Peter. All right, so I'll pick it up and hopefully he'll be back here in a little bit. So Tammy, thank you, by the way, for the clarification. That was really, really great. And I just want to point out, you guys notice how easy it is for us to talk in big generalities instead of actually looking at what is the source of it. And I'll tell you why we do that. It's just one of the mind's pitfalls. If you speak in generalities, then the you never really get to an answer, right? It's just kind of spinning around and around and around. You kind of notice like it's a never ending rabbit hole of nonsense. Nothing gives you clarity, nothing makes sense, and you just keep spinning around. So it's difficult for human beings to be really specific. All right, so Tammy added, she said, I feel thoughts like I'm never going to succeed in my work. I'm never going to make the type of money I know I deserve. I worry about what my family might think if I do succeed. And this is a huge one, Tammy. Will they think that I'm better than them? I don't want to keep doing the work I'm doing, but I don't know how to get out of it. So I'm just going to break this down piece by piece by piece, okay? These are all brilliant, Tammy. I know as you wrote them, you're like, these are not brilliant. And I want you to get that these are brilliant because now that they're out of your head, now you have a different awareness that you can bring to this, okay? So I'm going to actually start at the bottom because I feel like that's the linchpin that's kind of holding this together. Which is that phrase, I don't know how to get out of it. So something I'd like to share with all of you guys, your language is the fourth level of what is happening in your system, okay? So let me walk you through it. You have sensations in the body. That's the first level of communication with your system. That's the subconscious, then a sensation in the body. That is, we term as one sort of emotion. And then after the emotion comes a thought. After the thought comes spoken language. After spoken language comes action. So you can see from actual spoken language to the initial subconscious thought, there's a lot of stuff in between. Bro, I'm showing you 3 times in here for some reason. So
I don't know why.
The other person.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Well done. So
yep, sorry about that.
If you have things coming out of your mouth or even in your thoughts like, I don't know how, that's what you're programming in. And it almost feels like, and Tammy, tell me if this is a feeling or an experience of yours. It almost feels like it doesn't matter what you do, the pattern keeps showing up the same. The confusion, the lack of clarity, the uncertainty is just constantly there. And I'm sure you've tried many, many things, from reading different books to watching different videos. You've maybe even hired a coach at one time, and yet you're still in this exact place. And that's because we're going to talk a lot about this today. Guys started mentioning it about alignment. Okay? When your subconscious is not in alignment with your conscious mind, you will never, ever, ever produce the result that you want. You could go out there and hustle your little booty off. You could read 1,000,000 books. You could work with 1,000,000 coaches. Until the subconscious and conscious mind are in perfect alignment, you will not produce results. Now, I will flip that so you guys see this on the other hand. There have been times in your life, and all of these times start with something like this. You won't believe what happened to me. The craziest thing happened to me today. Every story that sounds something like that, that is when you were in perfect alignment. Now, the key difference is that everyone has that ability. Everyone has the ability to tap into abundance frequency. Everybody has the ability to manifest. Most people do it unconsciously because most people, most of the time, are not in alignment. So I use this example when we did our live event. If you were rowing, okay, and I put you against the best rowing person, the person that won the Olympics, right, like the Olympic gold. Now, I didn't know this, but these rowboats actually have a rudder underneath, which I did not know. Now, if I stuck the rudder of the Olympic professional sideways and yours just went straight, all you have to do is row. It doesn't matter how fast he rows, how slow he rows, if he does one hand more than the other, he could do whatever the hell he wants. You're winning that race. You get that? And that's how we go through life, with a rudder stuck. So for example, Tammy, a rudder stuck in I don't know how to get out of it guess what it's going to produce? The car is going to keep hitting the wall, right? A rudder that says, I'm never going to make the type of money I know I deserve, that fulfills your prophecy. The world will never show up to you as a miracle to stop these thoughts from occurring. Wayne Dyer used to say, it's not I'll believe it when I see it. It's I will see it when I believe it. So the first thing to go to work on is these thoughts. And Tammy, you've done a beautiful job. An exercise that I like to share with clients is you start writing down on one side of a piece of paper all the things that you want in life, your dream life. Really let yourself go. The job you want, the relationships you want, the body you want, the everything you want, right? Like really get into that flow. Let yourself dream. Let yourself feel what it will feel like to have those things. Then you flip the piece of paper and you start writing all the reasons why you can't have that life. That piece of paper, that side of that piece of paper will give you gold, because it's things like this. I'm never going to succeed in my work. I'm never going to make the type of money I know I deserve. And underlying all of that is this feeling of like, well, if I actually succeeded, how would that impact my family? Because at some point, Tammy, when you were growing up, you created a story about people who are successful. And you saw your family interact with people who are successful, and it made your family unhappy. And by the way, if anything that I'm saying is not true or hasn't been your experience, please stop me and correct me. I'm obviously, we're not able to talk to you, so I'm really just going off this question. So that gets programmed in when you were a little itty bitty baby that had no freaking clue about the world and what's going on, right? So now you grow older. And this rudder is stuck in like, well, I can't be that successful because if I become too successful, my family will disown me or not love me or not accept me. And because guys, the number one driver is the love and acceptance and support of your parents. I don't care how much you hate them. That hate is derived because you didn't get love, acceptance, and support from your parents.
100%.
Your anger is derived because you didn't get the attention that you needed. So you responded by doing that. So if that's the case, and that's the underlying thing of all of it, can you guys see how someone with Tammy's current operating system, and I say current because Tammy, by the way, all of this stuff is fully upgradable. You've already taken a massive first step, A, in being here, and B, in just even writing these. If you did that exercise that I just shared with you, it will be life altering.
Can I just throw it into the mix?
Absolutely.
You know, also people with these kind of profiles, it tends to be that even if they can find a way to make a lot of money, right? Because like hard work pays off, right? It does. We have evidence for it everywhere. And we're going to talk, I'm sure, a little bit about a different model to operate from that doesn't look like hard work to succeed. Okay. However, for those people who have that rudder stuck, that subconscious programming that Ilan's talking about, even when wealth finds its way to them, the tendency then is to sabotage it in some way. They gamble it away. They make a bad investment, you know, like
self-sabotage is real,
yeah,
baby.
Men go to Vegas and throw it on hookers and gambling, you know, or like whatever it might be for you. And I'm not saying whatever your hookers and gambling might be. Because, you know, like everyone's got their vice. It might be alcohol, it might be drugs, it might be sex. Like these are like the things that a lot of people fall into. And these are the traps. This is the reason why people who end up winning the lottery, 95% or more, I believe the case, end up poorer than when they initially started, before they even won the lottery. Why? It's because the psychology literally can't handle it. And if you haven't developed that inner alignment to that thing, to that worthiness, which is really the core of all of this, is that I'm worthy of having that life. You know, and Ilan's right. If your programming around your family is that this is somehow going to hurt my family, help me move away from my family, and your relationship is I want to be close to my family, you know, that's working against itself. So from like an energistic point of view, right, this is why personal development alone for a lot of people doesn't get them where they want to go. And whatever your feelings are about Tony Robbins, you know, we kind of went to him late in our tenure, so I could see why somebody who's just getting going would be really excited about it. I don't know about you though, but like hopping around like this for 2.5 days, you know, listening to loud music is all well and good. But when I go home and the endorphins have worn off And I find out that even though I thought 2 days ago I could take on the world, here I am Wednesday not taking on the world. What happened? Right? Because the endorphins are psychological. That all happens up here. If you jump around and listen to loud music and it's ecstatically dance, guess what? You're going to feel good. However, if the programming over here is not in agreement with the programming up here, that's everything. So when people meditate, these type of practices, getting into energy work and really understanding how to create alignment all the way through the system, that's the real ticket. Because if you're going to ask from source and you get to participate in the creation of your reality process by connecting yourself to ultimate intelligence. And if you can imagine, there's just like energy coming down through you. So personal development is going to open this up, right? So if you talk about like a chakra, a crown chakra, that's going to open up the crown chakra, which basically means I'm letting possibility back in. I've gotten past the point where I believe that there's only one type of set of reality. There's one set of rules everyone has to play by, a dogmatic type of, reality, which so many people, by the way, are so inflicted by. If you've gotten that far, you're crushing it in life right now. Because that's the epidemic on the planet is we're just closed. We think we know who we are. You forgot that you came into this world an unmolded piece of clay that literally is infinite possibility was part of the programming. And then you start making it wrong. And I'll talk about that in a second. But you're open over here. The light comes through. The energy comes through. But the programming here is like, this is not is aligned over here. And the light can't go down. And the light needs to go down all the way to the root chakra. Your sex organs is creation energy. So if all this is blocked all along the way, we know Ilan's creation energy works.
Hey, you want more money? Have more sex.
It's worked twice. So, but that's the point, right? So in short, if you tune into your system when you're upset, you're going to find that there's contractions. The places I'll quickly tell you to put awareness on without going into how that happens is your stomach, your heart, and your head. If the contraction is strong in the stomach, it's fear. And this is the youngest part of you. This is like old fear. This is like, I'm not safe. I run upstairs. I put the covers over my head type of fear. Okay. If the contractions in the heart, like, oh, it's heavy over here, I'm sad. If the contractions are in the mind or blurriness, fogginess, that kind of stuff, generally speaking, it's anger, right? And there's a combination of all those things. Now, notice when that happens, we're not like, okay, there's something happening. Let me relax. Something's happening. And then we go, and we try to battle it. It's like what people tell you when you're getting a cold. They're like, fight the cold, fight the cold. How many of you guys here, when you fight the cold, does the cold stop happening, right? Because again, like that experience is perfect. If you learned how to allow for those experiences to come through the same way you allow for the experiences with joy to come through, without judgment of any kind, you would just take it as, oh, wow, I'm getting perfect feedback from the universe right now. My stomach is in contraction. What am I afraid of? And that was it. And you would just get curious about what there is to be fearful of right now without even having to get the right answer. I'm just curious. You'll relax into it. The energy will start moving again. The insights come much faster. You deal with that thing for a short period of time because the energy has capacity to move. So you guys got to get this, though. If this is new for you, you've never heard something like this before because there really aren't that many people talking about this. You got to get that whatever your programming initiated with. And I could give you some questions to ask yourself so you kind of know your program initiation, is that you started creating these psychological grooves, these neurological pathways, these energy grooves. That's what the fascia is. It's just a bunch of energy grooves in your body. Now, you've been sending signals the same way into your system since you were this little. So if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, that's how long you've been sending that signal through the body. If Ilan and I saw you on video, by the shape of your body with about 70 to 90% accuracy, we could tell you what psychology you're dealing with because the energy system of the body will actually push the body to grow in different ways. So for instance, you may notice Ilan and I are kind of broad-shouldered, big chest. That there's a pattern called the aggressive pattern. Basically what that means is you pull energy down from the root chakra up here because somewhere along the way there was fear. Right? There's somewhere along the way. And in order to protect yourself, in order to protect the heart region, this part of the body actually gets a lot of energy. It grows out. And basically you walk around puffed up like this because it scares other people. But the root cause is you're actually scared of people. So you walk around with this like subconscious fear all the time and your body portrays this way of protection. For people who are kind of more, sorry for the truck.
Can't hear it.
Okay. For people who are like more, draped in, you might see people with like a rounded back. Their shoulders are kind of in. Those people are actually pushing their heart back and away from you. They don't want to be exposed, right? They're pushing it back and away, and they're actually protecting their heart, right? So a lot of these different things will tell you about people's psychology. Bottom line is, when you relax into things and there's these contractions, these feelings, instead of making them wrong, you're like, wow, this is interesting that this is happening. Let me check out what's going on. Okay, what is this trying to tell me? And what this is like this is like the little young part of you, this 3 to 5 year old version of you coming and going, I need attention. I just need your attention right now. Can you just put a little attention on me? I need some love. I need some guidance. And basically what we all say is, get the fuck away from me. I got to go back to work, or get away from me. I got to deal with this. Or, we go about our day. We do our checklist. We do our chores. We do our things. And we don't pay attention to this part of our system. So I want you guys to just imagine if like a 3 to 5 year old, if you have a kid or you have a nephew or something that you care about, and that little person came to you and was like, I'm really scared right now. And you kicked it away. It's the way that you're probably dealing with yourself. This is why these things keep coming up over and over again, because they never actually get attention. I cannot tell you how many times Ilan and I have coached somebody, and the mere fact that we are actually present while they are talking, without adding anything to the conversation, without trying to fix them, just giving them an open ear of listening, literally transforms by itself. That's all the person requires. So when you listen to yourself this way and you give yourself space for this, it's like you're starting to make a new groove, a new neurological pathway, new energy moving through the fascia. And as you practice this is how you start reprogramming the subconscious.
Tammy, real quick, before we move on to someone else, I just want to complete and give you some other exercises that are great to do. And this is, by the way, for all of you. So if you want to understand you were talking about success, right? Money, whatever it is. All of these things, like we said, were programmed when you were really, really young. So if you start to look at, how does my mom deal with money? How does my dad deal with money? What were the conversations in their marriage about money? Then replace the word with love or success or whatever is the area of life that you're struggling with. Like one of our personal clients right now, she's dealing with relationship stuff. And I threw this at her and she just started bawling right there, right on the phone, because she started to see that there's certain things, like there's one of two ways you're going to go. Whatever mom or dad did, you either approved and as an adult, you're going to do more of because you're like, oh, that's really good. Or you're like, that's really bad. And you're going to do the opposite of. Either way, could you see that you're at the complete effect of that perception? And then you've been living your whole life either doing more or the opposite of because of something that you saw, heard, or felt. So a great way to do this is just to look back and what were some moments that you remember with your family dealing with money or success or love or whatever area is. And that's going to give you a really good insight into what your operating system is programmed as of right now. Then as we work deeper with you, we can actually look at how do we take those programs that you have now uncovered. By the way, awareness is truly, I'd say like 80% of it is just becoming aware. Most people walk around with all these blind spots. They keep running faster and doing more and working harder to get no results or very little effective additional results. And they don't understand why. It's because of these things. So I would just offer to all of you, and Tammy included, to just do that work. I think it'll give you some amazing insight, at least where to start the conversation. All right, Peter added, I've grown so incredibly much and am excelling in so many areas, but with that, there is still the little boy inside second guessing and thinking that I can't do it. For example, I will have sessions with clients and they tell me how amazing the sessions are, but I forget that. And it's hard to keep that within my body, that remembrance. Peter, just such a beautiful example for all of us to deal with.
So I want to give you a little bit of background on Peter real quick, because I chatted with him last week. Peter's like Sandra, like the one I'm going to work with this weekend. I don't want to say that anybody's like anybody, but from what I can gather about his abilities is he can go to people's systems and literally reprogram this subconscious. Now the kicker is he can't do it to himself.
It's so amazing,
right? So he's still walking around. Oh, this is Williams. Maybe it's not the same guy. Okay, I apologize if it's not Peter Hitton or something like that. Okay, so maybe it's not the same guy. All right, never mind then. I'll leave that alone.
So here's what's so beautiful about what Peter shared, because this, I bet every one of you, if you listen to the way I read it, then you'll find yourself in that exact place. And I don't care whether it's about work or your relationships or your body. You ever notice when someone tells you a compliment, you're not like, oh, tell me. Like my best friend was here with me all weekend. And I've been doing this for 15 plus years, okay? Like I coach on this. So I just want to give you the humanity of it, right? So he's sitting and we're sitting outside and my wife and his wife had left. And he's like, I just need to acknowledge you. And he just starts telling me about, you know, how I've reinvented myself and he's so proud. And then his son kind of like yelled from the window that he wanted him to come upstairs and put him to bed. And he left. Now, what do you think? Like part of me was like, oh, this is really cool, right? Thank you. This is my best friend. So I obviously look up to him. And part of me when he left was like, whew, right? Because it's a lot to handle. Now, do you think when he came back, I was like, so you were acknowledging me? Or do you think I was like, I hope he doesn't remember?
Oh, that's so funny. That's funny.
Right? And I'm sharing this with you because as much work as we do, it's just that little bit inside of us. It's like, oh, I just don't believe this, or like, no, don't tell me that, or we disagree with it and all that stuff. And it's all what Peter's talking about. It's not you, the adult version you, who's like, oh, this is so weird, stop talking to me. It's the little boy, the little girl who just can't take it. It's like, no, that if you only knew who I was, you'd never say these things.
Right.
So I don't re-acknowledge the conversation. I don't say like, hey, so you know, we were in the middle of this, and this.
That would be amazing to do to somebody, though.
What?
I said that would be amazing to do to somebody, though. They were like, you know, I would just like love to see that scene where somebody's like, so you were telling me how awesome I was. Can you just continue, please?
You want to continue?
Yeah.
So the next day we end up sitting at lunch. He's like, hey, so I never got to finish acknowledging you last night. And immediately in my system, like everything just went, oh, crap. And it was the most gorgeous, beautiful acknowledgement about being able to reinvent myself. Because at 30, I don't know if you guys know our story. At 30, guy was 2 years younger. I lost everything. I mean, I went from making multiple six figures, living in $1 million house, traveling the world, to living on unemployment checks. To having my son being born and Guy and I starting a business that was making no money for months,
for years.
Literally living on unemployment checks, you know? And so to have the ability to go through all that is really what he acknowledged. Because it's one thing to kind of shift and create your life in another similar modality. But to go, we were in commercial finance. I was in finance, real estate, right? Like to go from that to build a completely different business. And when Guy and I first started, we did marketing, training. We didn't even do personal. So then 5 years later, we reinvented ourselves again. And so that's what he was acknowledging. And Peter, I'm sharing this with you because that little boy inside that is second guessing, I would offer all of you with the little boy or girl inside, the greatest shift that you can make in your life is to start building a relationship with that little boy or girl. The thing that we don't get taught when we're young is that that little boy or girl will be with you forever. And it's like Guy said earlier, the way we typically deal with it is we try to shut him up or her up. We try to not listen. We try to go like, well, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this anyway. Right? And meanwhile, what does that happen? If you had a 5-year-old or 6-year-old that you were ignoring for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, what do you think that's going to create? a pretty tumultuous relationship. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you were to lock a 5 or 6-year-old boy or girl in a room and say, don't come out, I promise you, the door is not going to be quiet. The room is not going to be quiet. In fact, it will keep getting louder and louder. This is what keeps people up at night. This is what has people take drugs and drink themselves into a stupor every night because they can't deal with the voice. And so, Peter, when it comes to this, it's an awareness. It's an ability to bring the boy into the experience. You know, when you're coaching people, when you're working with clients, invite the little boy in to watch, to experience. And I know that might sound crazy to you. Just try it. Next time it's like, hey, we're about to go into this. We make a real profound difference. Come hang out. Come watch how we do this. Right? And then as a complete side note, and I hope that was valuable to you, Peter, and if you have any clarification questions about it, please don't hesitate to ask. I will tell you something that for me, with all the value that we provide in the world and the amazing testimonials that people provide us and all that stuff, I still have days where I wake up and I go, are we even like doing anything? Is anything that we're doing making a difference? Like, I still have those days. You know what I do on those days? I actually go watch testimonial videos. I'll go read, like we have a file with like a bunch of testimonials. I'll either go watch a video of people sharing their experiences with us or read something that people have sent us to remind myself that it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about Guy. It's about the transformation of humanity for us. And Peter, if you're working with clients, I know that you're a heart-centered, service-based human being.
Totally.
And one of two things is going to happen for all of you. You're either going to buy into a 7-year-old version of the world, a 7-year-old scared little boy or girl version of the world, of why you're not good enough or worthy enough or deserving enough or smart enough or whatever enough. Or you're going to go and fulfill on your mission. For us, why we do this work is so that you can actually fulfill on that mission. You have a song inside of you. You're a light waiting to be shown on the world. And if you're not going to do it, no one else is going to do it for you. No one's walking around fanning your flame. So I hope that resonates with you, Peter. And if you have anything else that came up during that, please don't hesitate. Okay.
And I'll just add, I mean, personally, I actually don't think you can separate selflessness from selfishness. They exist in the same world. Like for me, the feeling I get from helping people grow, get inspired, get motivated, take responsibility, go do the things that they were deathly afraid of, thought they would never do, lose the weight, have the relationship, all those things are incredible. And I know how that feels when somebody has that, how that makes me feel about myself. A lot of the selflessness actually comes from selfish desires because I get to know myself as somebody who makes a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. So I don't think Ilan and I pretend that we're perfect. I don't think we pretend that just because we've done work that we've got it all figured out. Yeah, you know what?
Just massively imperfectly perfect.
Right, perfect in our own ways. Not perfect by the standards that are set by most social norms. And I think that's one of those transitions we all get to make, which is like, we've tried it their way. We love your dogmatic shit. And the results of the planet, speak for themselves. I don't think we need to dig any further about what it looks like when we're trying to turn everybody into a single person. Whatever your beliefs are, I don't think that being a sheeple is what the desire of most people on planet Earth. I think they're just too scared oftentimes to actually be self-expressed and say who they actually are.
Yeah. And Peter just wrote, "This is incredible. Thank you. It's about the mission and serving beautiful people." Yeah. Whenever you guys feel stuck or trapped, I would offer that you're making it about me. Mm-hmm. See if you can serve someone. And especially for someone like Peter, who I know is a, serve person, because that's the kind of work he does. But even if you're not, there's always a difference that you can go make. When you focus on you, when you have too much time to focus on you, you will always make up shit and problems to handle, to deal with. When you let that go, when you're out and serving others, all that stuff goes away. Awesome. All right, who's next?
So we have a few interesting ones here, but there's one really big matzo ball out there.
Okay.
I want to go in order. So Ross Marie, if I'm saying your name right, wrote, I want to help with knowing who I am, or how do I know when I'm being me? I know, complicated question, but I struggle with this. So just because it's a little bit generic, I just want to know what purpose would knowing that serve? What's the end game? Like, if you feel like you had those answers, what would be available that's not currently available? Because otherwise it's
not available.
Yeah. So what in your life would then become available that you feel right now, not knowing who you are, makes that not available? That would be my follow-up before we go down that road. It's a great question. It's just like, Ilan and I don't have an answer for you. We can certainly talk to you about how to tune in so that you're more aware when you're in and out of your alignment. That's one thing. By reading a question, certainly in a chat box, without talking to someone directly, having any sort of inclination about what makes them them, or what makes them tick, or who they are, it's a shot in the dark, right? Like, only you could possibly know that.
Can I just give you a very, very generic response to this real quick? And again, I'm not saying that this is you, Ross Marie, but just, I would offer you that you know who you are. And there are moments in your life that you feel connected and alive and joyful and fulfilled. In those moments, you are the truest version of you. Okay? That line of questioning, right? Who am I is a beautiful, powerful question. It's a life mission question. Right? Nothing wrong with that question. It's just, it's tricky in the sense of the mind can trick you into thinking that there's somewhere to get to, or some progress you have to get through in order to find that answer. And the truth is, you already know what that is. Mm-hmm. The real question is, how do I get to live inside of X, like peace, love, fulfillment, joy, abundance, clarity? That's truly what I believe. And that's why God was asking the question. That's truly what you're seeking, is how do I live in a state, whatever that state is, right? That's for me, would be a much, much more powerful question. And then out of that question would be things like, well, what takes me out of that state? Mm-hmm. Right. And those are beliefs and perspectives.
I would say more succinctly, the question might be, who am I right now? Right. Because again, if you're worried about who you are, that's like out there someday in the future, I'll become this thing, and then you're not present. The only question is, what are you right now? What's important to you? What feels good right now? That's who you are right now. The most incredible people I know today, whether they're younger or older, are the people who never stop asking that question.
Yeah,
because it's an unanswerable question that doesn't actually require an answer. It's a great way of checking in part of your alignment. We're talking about alignment here. It's like, okay, what feels good right now? That's who I am right now. Mm-hmm. Everything that's not that is just not that. This pursuit, I don't know how old you are, certainly that was something I thought in my early 20s that was going to get answered, and I'm going to find out by traveling and this and that. You might find aspects of yourself that you like, but for people like people we assume who come to these webinars are something we call fringe dwellers. These are like people who think outside the box and stuff like that. We have these really beautiful definitions for it. I won't get into it now, but the point is that you're like, you're not up for the set of rules that's been portrayed to most of the planet. You're kind of looking to live life a little bit differently. Freedom is probably a top priority for you. Joy, connection, stuff like that. So it's like, if those things are present for you right now, then you could say, something must be out of alignment. I'm not there. What's going on in my system that's having me feel this way? Again, learning to meditate, relax into it, allow for those things to arise. The moment your conscious mind sends a signal to the subconscious that says, I'm ready to deal with this, whatever went into the subconscious that programmed that is going to start coming back up again. So like even with what Tammy said before, it's like, how come I'm having a good day and then stuff starts going awry? Well, guess what? When you're in a really great grounded set of energy and positive mindset, you're ready to take shit on. You're at your most powerful. You're like, let's go. You know, you're amped up. So at that point in time, the conscious mind is like, I'm ready. Go ahead. And the subconscious starts percolating all those things back up to the surface. And then instead of freaking out when that happens, you realize, wow, I'm in such a good place to get the opportunity out of this thing. We call it challenge opportunities. People see challenges, but the challenges are really just opportunities to grow again. Guys, no matter what development you do, you think about development as just pushing out your walls. You know, people are like, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is humanity. Right? You do a little personal development, you're like, oh, there's something possible. I didn't know. You push the wall out a little bit. It feels really good. You have space again. Right? But then as you start walking and exploring your space, you find, boom, there's the next wall. You know, like your anger, your sadness, whatever it is, you know how many different triggers that thing has? You know how many layers that thing has? There's not one question that someone's going to ask you one day, be like, oh, that's why I get angry. That's going to happen about 65,000 more times in your life. You know, the insights just keep coming. The question is, are you willing to be curious all the time? Are you willing to see that when life is known, by the way, Ross Marie, when life is known, it becomes really not interesting. When you try to find the answer for everything, life is exhaustive. It's just not interesting anymore. People who only rely on intelligence, philosophy, well, it's interesting. I always say it sounds good at dinner parties. It makes people laugh, and it's like, oh, wow, you know, Ross Marie, she's really smart. And then if you go investigate the quality of that person's life, if the quality is not there, then you have to say intelligence is not the thing that leads to ultimate quality in one's life. It might give you that little dopamine fix for that moment where you said that thing and people are like, wow, she's smart. But then you go home at night and you still got to be with yourself. Right? And that the quality is not there. So that's the kind of just like little things I would start looking at. I don't know if she wrote anything up top after that. Okay. No. All right, cool. So let's, that was more of a discussion, but hopefully you guys saw something for yourselves. Don Ria said, and again, it's kind of missing a question. So if you want to just clarify for us.
I don't think it was a question. It was more of
a statement.
In response to the conversation we were having with Tammy.
Okay, fantastic. So got that part.
And but I can read it. I thought it was actually really good. So,
I think it is good, please.
Yeah. So Danira writes, my mom looks up to teachers that share value for free, and whoever charges, she looks down on them. She disconnects from them. It makes me so upset because as a life coach, I know that my subconscious is programmed that way because of her views, and it makes me fear the point of where I will charge my clients for my service. So I fear self-sabotage in my journey to getting there. You guys see how this stuff plays out? So Danira, first of all, amazing awareness.
Yep.
Amazing awareness. Like that, I'm telling you, is 80% of the way there. Because now you know when you're in a conversation with a client to charge, you know that sensation is going to come up in the body because of all of that old programming. Now the real work that you would get to do, if you so choose, is to start dismantling that program. And if you think about it, a guy was talking about grooves, like think about grooves on a record, right? So the autopilot way that the needle's going to go is into the deepest grooves, right? So now you become aware of this and you go, you know what? This doesn't serve me anymore. This is not the way I want to live my life. And by the way, guys, there's stuff that gets passed down from lineages. I'm not even talking parents or siblings or grandparents. It comes from really, really deep down. The next piece is to actually create new grooves. Now, when the new grooves get created, they're slight. So that needle, right, is going to want to go into the deeper groove. It's almost like the difference between an interstate highway, okay? Shaya, I cannot talk to you at this moment. I got it. I can't do it right now. So there's an interstate highway, and that's where it's easiest to go, right? When we're trying to create these new paths, it's like new neural pathways in the brain. Those new neural pathways in the brain, it's almost like a mountain hill road that's unpaved, that's one lane, that now you got to trek down real slow. And while it's easier for the brain, because the brain loves shortcuts, to go through all these things, like your body has pre-programmed things that it does when you experience certain things. So when you create these new grooves, if you will, you have to understand that it doesn't just happen like this overnight. Just because you had an insight around money or love or relationship or anger, that doesn't mean that you're never going to experience that thing again. You'll never experience it the same way. That's absolutely true. And what it will give you access to is the next layer of that thing. So if you think that personal development has this thing that like it has a beginning and an end, don't start. Just don't start. Don't get on the roller coaster ride, because the roller coaster ride never stops. There's always something. There's always something to release. There's always an ability to tap more and deeper into self-love and your alignment and who you are. And you know what happens? The deeper you go and the more you release, the more stuff happens in your life effortlessly and easily. And I believe the reason why you're all here is because that's how you want to start producing results. That takes something. You notice how everyone around out here is talking about hustle and grind and this and that? You notice how we never mention any of that? We're not interested in that. So Danira, like, that's brilliant. So now what I would ask you is what action, well, two things. First, what's a new perception? What's a new belief that you want to program in place of that? And every time that comes up, you get vigilant about actually going, oh, that was my old belief. Here's my new belief. I get to charge clients and clients pay me what I am worth. I get to receive clients with effortless ease. Clients want to pay me for my services, right? And you just avidly do this. So like every time, this is my new belief. This is my new belief. This is my new belief. Now from that new belief, if that was truly your new belief, right? And you feel that, you got to feel what's honest for you. Don't make up something that just doesn't feel honest or creates anxiety in your system. What's honest for you? Now from that place, what's one action? One, not 100, not the business that you can build. What's one action step that you can take that's consistent with that new belief, and go take that action? Now that action is going to scare the shit out of you, because the little girl inside of you is going to go, no, we can't do that. That's going to upset mom. And we're like all those other stories, right? And you're going to do it anyway. And you're going to invite the little girl into that environment. And what's going to happen is you're going to do it, and you're going to most likely produce an incredible result. Because anytime I've seen people stretch themselves and put themselves out there, the rush that you receive afterwards and the result that you receive is so much bigger and better than you ever imagined, that it totally outweighs the sensations that you had before. And that now gives you access to another step. And so on and so on and so on. But where most people get stuck is they buy that. Well, where most people get stuck, they don't even know that that's running the show. And they just keep doing stuff on top of it, hoping that it'll somehow fix itself. It doesn't. You're actually aware. So now that's the process where you start to reprogram. And then you just allow yourself to play a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. One of our clients, this woman, the most amazing, beautiful woman, had a really, really tough childhood. Physical abuse, mental abuse, all of it. And has a conversation of like, life is not safe. Now, if your conversation is life is not safe, how are you going to be, especially around people of the opposite sex? Not fantastic, right? Scared, like a little girl would be scared. So you can imagine for her to take actions in that world takes something. Her life 3 months after starting to work with us is she's a completely different human being.
Yeah.
She's got access to things in life that she never even dreamed possible. And now that ripples into her relationship with her son and her daughter and her friends and all of these things that she put stops on in her life to make herself feel safe that she can never do. Now she's got access to. Do you know how happy this woman is? So like, Danira, for just imagine this scenario. You go and have a conversation, and that conversation is effortless. And the amount that you charge is effortless because you know you deserve and are worthy of exactly what it is that you're charging. And that person on the other end goes, yes, I would love to work with you. That sounds great. That would blow your fucking gaskets. It would, right? It would be like, oh my God, how did that happen? And now you're aligning to a whole different energy. And that frequency gives you new actions and new beliefs and new actions and new beliefs. And at some point, guys, the first time we charged people for an hour worth of coaching, which by the way, we gave them an hour and a half, even probably more, was $97. We put it out there and both of us was like, who the fuck is going to pay $97 to talk to us? No one. And someone bought it and we were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
I wanted to deliver $10,000 worth of value. That's where I was at the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now we charge over $1,000 an hour to work with us. And I'm way more grounded in charging that today than I was in charging the first $97. So that's what I want to share with you. Like, so true. It's just the work is in here. It has nothing to do with out there. Mm-hmm. It's not about attracting the right clients and having the right conversations and all that shit that sales books tell you. The perfect clients show up. You have shown up here perfectly. For a reason. We're going to find that out very soon. But like for a reason you showed up. That's what it's all about.
Cool. So just to add on top of it, I want to talk about, it's Danria, right? That had that question, I believe. Yeah. Danira, sorry. Real quick, resignation is a way of being for a lot of people. We're resigned and apathetic. If you kind of look across the whole of humanity, it's like a lack of self-worth, resignation, apathetic, pretty much sums most people's experience of life, right? And I took a few notes here, so if I'm looking over it, I didn't want to forget. So I sense from that little bit of share that there's like resignation about mom, resignation about money, resignation about what mom created about money, right? So now there's this whole conversation of making mom wrong. I want you guys to take a look for yourself. When you make other people wrong for anything, being late, not calling you on time, whatever it might be, I want you to notice something, and I'll tell you a story for myself, that it's you don't have space for that inside of yourself. So it means that you've shamed some part of yourself. Now, if I was to say that personal development, spiritual development had a goal, I don't think it does, but if it had one, it's to reintegrate everything back into the whole. When we say all is one, that means every part of you is part of the one. We don't get to say, well, I'll take all of this, but these characteristics, those go over here. I don't want those. I don't, so things that aren't integrated cause problems. So for instance, for me, like I get back to people, Ilan and I were trained around integrity and calling back people on time and honoring your word and doing all these things for like a decade straight. So when somebody texts me, calls me, leaves me a message, the countdown has begun in Guy Ferdman's body, I start getting this feeling in my body. For about 10 years, I was like, oh, that's integrity. I got to call those people back. That's what I do. I have this thing where I always call everyone back on time so they feel taken care of and blah, 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 blah. Now, the opposite side of that is I would message somebody, call them, whatever. They don't get back to me within a timely manner. And now another experience has started in my body, and this is shaming that person, making literally starting to feel like they've abandoned me, I'm lonely, they don't care about me, all the things that I'm trying to show them by getting back to them really soon. I'm saying this person's not doing it back to me. Are they doing any of those things? Well, you have to notice that in my own system, I'm shaming myself into taking those actions. So if I don't have space to do that in my own experience to somebody else, nobody has that space to do it back to me. And this has caused major issues in my relationships. I have lost lifetime friendships over this, no joke. There's people I literally extricate from my life on a regular basis because it charges up all those things when I was a kid that I felt that I made a silent agreement with myself that I'm never going to feel those things again. Many, many people who become massively successful around money watch their parents at some point be bankrupt. And then having no money became shameful. So they go create lives that create an illusion of cocooning them so they never had to feel the feeling that they felt when they were the poor kid and they went to school with that hole in their shoes and Bobby told Jimmy that he's a poor little schlub, go back home, you poor kid. And however he felt in that moment, he never wanted to feel that way again. So the way that we start working through that is we stop shaming those parts. So here's my challenge to you, is to start loving that part of yourself that's scared of being broke. Start loving the part of yourself that denies that you could ever be in those kind of situations, right? Because the way that you make your mom wrong indicates to me what you make wrong inside of your own system. And that means that it's not part of the whole anymore. It's out here. It's not integrated. And the moment you start loving that little piece of you, that little girl who's scared, it gets to get integrated back into the system. Your relationship to money, I promise you, will completely shift from there. Completely shift from there. By itself. You won't have to think about it. Ilan and I, we used to, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too, when you work on personal development stuff, it's like you want the big pop, you want the huge insight, you want to feel like, ah! You know, like you want to feel that. Of course you do. It's very addictive. And then you go and chase that feeling and you realize, oh, all right, well, that's because that was the first insight I ever had. It felt major, like the first skydive you ever took or the first kiss that you ever had, right? Like that first time, there's something so unique about it. It's because it's unknown. And when the unknown gets into your awareness, it's really exciting. And it feels that way. Today, I'm proud of the little things. You know, like Ilan over there and his son, you could hear him whispering in the background, that he could just very directly be with him and just say, hey, I'll do this later, instead of freaking out or whatever it might be, showing tenderness. Which happens, right? And then like having tenderness in moments where you would normally get angry, or having patience, and just like, you know, not bringing shame into the world. Because what we do out here to shame other people is really an indication of what we do to ourselves. So, you know, for you, I think the world would change drastically if we got to see from an adult perspective what our parents looked like when they were kids. Because it's hard to imagine your parent as a child. However, they're an adult and they're still children. What, you know, my girlfriend is 21 weeks pregnant. We're going to have a baby in November. And I'm clear, I'm 34 years old. I'll be 35 by the time the baby comes. I'm clear that I'm still a child having another child. I'm not an adult having a child. And that will never change. But to my child, I'll always seem like an adult. And unless I tell them, and I will, because that's the experience I want to have with my kids, the vulnerability, the things that I still deal with on a daily basis about the parts of me that aren't fully integrated, and have those little scared pieces that are still happening in there, and will probably happen for the rest of my life in different ways. I want my children to know that that's okay, and that the world is safe even when you feel that way. I don't want to raise a child that I shame into being some way because I didn't get to be that way when I was a child. It's just not how I want to raise my kid. So just what I wanted to say about that. There's a question here from Diane, but if we go down that road, that's a big matzo ball. Do you want to go down that road?
We have about 18 minutes. So if you think we can go down that road in 18 minutes, I'd say yes. If not, then I'd say no.
Okay. So why don't we do the introduction for the access to freedom super quick? Let's see how much time we have left over, and if we can tackle that one, because just by the basis of the question, I know there's a lot we need to uncover there before we even get to what we want to say. So that's okay. Why it's a little bit of a long conversation. Okay, got it. So, all right. Well, why don't we? Okay, so let's do that then. So what we want to do at this point, guys, like, by the way, I just want to read what Janira wrote. Wow, yes, my parents lost everything. Bankrupt. We had no food when I was little for a while. Never, ever connected this to shame before. Wow. Yeah. P.S. I just want to tell you, when you reintegrate that piece of shame back into yourself, your relationship with your mom will transform overnight in ways I have chills just thinking about what could potentially happen right now. Yeah. You will be around your mom and you won't even recognize her. Like, because your energy system will have shifted, which means it'll be impossible for you to view her the same way. You'll actually have empathy where you've had anger. So just like imagine that, like not carrying that shame around, because it's lineage shame now you're carrying around. And by the way, if I don't know if you have children, if you don't heal that, you're going to pass down some version of that down to your kids also. Whether it's making people wrong who don't have money, or whatever it might be that the conversation is, or how you show up, that just gets passed down, and then they have to deal with it too. When we take responsibility and we see what's happening in our system, the buck stops here. This is it. That doesn't get passed down to the lineage of the family. By the way, that changes the future of humanity. So, no big deal.
Peter, by the way, I just realized who you were. You were the Peter that we sent videos back and forth on Facebook Messenger. And you sent an amazing video back, so thank you. All right, so I want to share with you guys, if you've enjoyed this kind of conversation. Yep, awesome. See, we figured it out. It took us a little bit, but we got there.
Well, the Peter I was talking about is also in Sydney. That's the irony.
Yeah. So see what's happened to De Niro. De Niro after this, by the way, will never be the same. Okay. I know Ross Marie had a huge insight in this. And who else were we working with? Peter had a huge insight. I know that. And so with that being said, like, I feel like our work is slightly different in that, obviously, in our coaching programs, you're actually going to be out on video, if you so choose, having a full-on conversation. So it's much more back and forth than it is when we're trying to read, and figure out what it is that you're trying to say by you guys writing 4 lines. So I hope you guys got a really good understanding, but I feel like our work has this ability of what I would call transmissions, that just by the virtue of you being inside of this conversation, you get access to fields whereby, like Guy said, people can listen, or we could just listen, and people can speak in our field, and they receive transformation. So through the years, we've been able to tap into that. And so that's why I personally think our work is incredibly, incredibly powerful, and why people that come into our space begin to have their dreams fulfilled. So with that being said, step 1, and what we kind of showed you today here, is how to uncover and become aware of these programs, these beliefs, these subconscious stuck rudders, if you will, that are having you create the same pattern in your life over and over. So what I'm about to make as an opportunity is for those of you who are done, and I'm talking like sick and tired of having that rudder stuck. Okay. If you're someone that's okay with where you're at, if you're someone that, you're okay watching a bunch of more YouTube videos for the next few years, or reading a bunch of books and kind of hoping that it turns out, what I'm about to say is not for you. Okay. This is truly for people who are done with that. This is like the line in the sand moment for you. And you really want to make a shift, like a monumental shift. We still have half of 2018 to go, and you want to create an entirely new life. So that if you're that person, stick around, because I'm talking to you. The way that we've found works best to work with us is, first and foremost, to fill out a quick questionnaire. Why? We have a multitude of programs. We have programs ranging anywhere from $120,000 from the year all the way down to, bro, what's our most least expensive program?
Initial public offering is $47.
$47. So
it's a pretty big range.
Yeah, from $47 to $120,000, and literally everything in between. Now, for certain ones of you, like, it doesn't make sense to be in one of our higher end programs, and maybe something different will work for you. So what we found is that when people fill out a questionnaire and let us know where they're at in their life currently, and where it is that they want to get to, right? Everyone's at point A and what they're looking to get to point B. Now, there's 2 ways that you're going to get to point B. One is like this, and then eventually get there, right? Or the other one is, I'm going to take a more direct linear path. Now, I don't believe in shortcuts, but I do well believe in linear paths, right? Like, there's a clear path to get somewhere with the biggest velocity. So that's what we want to offer you. So the application process for us will take you probably 10, 20, 30 minutes. I don't know. Some people spend 2 hours filling these things out. I read each and every one of your applications personally. I respond to each one of your applications personally. Okay. This doesn't go to a sales team. It just goes to me. After I review that, we'll have a conversation and we'll figure out, I will make what I believe are one or two of the best options for you in alignment with where you are currently. Okay. So that's the only offer on the table. Now the application is simple. It's $100 today. And Guy, if you can throw up the link. Yep. Haley, by the way, is actually in one of our programs that's starting now, which, by the way, it's our masterclass. We're calling it Access to Freedom. There's still 2 seats available for that, so we can talk about that if you fill out the application. The application link is satoriprime.com/masterclass. The fee to fill out the application is $100. It is fully refundable. If you choose not to move forward with any of our programs, you get the $100 refund. If you do move forward, we just use that to credit it towards whatever you're using, right? So it just goes towards that. Now, here's my take. We used to do this for $1. And Guy was like, hey, I'd like to keep doing this for $1 because I feel like more people are taking the application if it's $1. To which I replied, bro, what did I reply?
People will not send in their applications. They pay to pay attention. Which tends to be very true.
We've noticed 2 things. One, people that took a $1 application did not fill out said $1 application to the tune of about 50% of them. Shocking, right? Like, you want to shifts in your mind and yet you don't do anything about it. Shocking. The other thing for me is this. If you're not, like that saying, you put your money where your mouth is. If you're not worth $100 investment in yourself to even find out what your life could look like on the other side of this, then I'm not saying this to be judgmental. I'm not saying this to be an ass. I hope you don't hear it that way. But honestly, if you're not committed to yourself at that level, how could I possibly be committed to you? That would be like Ilan and Guy are more committed to my success than I'm committed to my success. It just doesn't make sense. And so what we've seen is, I'd rather take less applications and only talk to people who are deadly serious about creating a life in the sand moment. Who are deadly serious about, for once in their lives, upgrading and all of their operating systems, removing all of the belief systems that no longer work, not just becoming aware of them and seeing them, but going through the process actively of reprogramming every single one of them and then having access to the kind of freedom where you can do that on your own every single moment of every single day. That's it. Like, if freedom speaks to you, freedom from your past, freedom from anxiety from the future, freedom from the nagging voice in your head, freedom from the limiting beliefs, freedom from the lineage of familial beliefs that have been running your show. If you're done with all of that and you're ready for I said to De Niro, like De Niro version 2.0 or Peter version 2.0 or Haley version 2.0 or Lisa or Ruben or whoever else is on here, version 2.0, like if you're truly ready, then just fill out that application. I'll respond to you again. Like, I want to respond to as many of you. If you fill it out today, I promise I'll respond to you guys tomorrow, because again, we're starting one of our master classes tomorrow for the intro call. So the intro call is tomorrow. The training won't start for another week or two. So we still have 2 spots for you guys if you're so choose. So again, do with that what you will. I hope to communicate with as many of you as possible and just see what would be a great fit for you. And if you guys have any questions or anything like that, I'm going to put up my email address. Yeah, Haley's actually starting the masterclass with us.
I got you.
So I'm going to leave you my personal email.
I got you in there.
I actually wrote Ilan@masterclass.com.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to get you anything. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, I'd love to communicate with as many of you as possible. And if you have any questions right now, happy to answer any and all.
Cool. All right, we'll see what comes through.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's anything else. I feel like the Diane thing, which I would love to get into, is a bit to tackle. you still want to get into it, or with 6 minutes left, not so much?
No. I think if anything, if you feel called to do it, Diane, maybe reach out to us with that question, like copy paste it, and maybe we can shoot her a little video. By the way, if you guys are not in our Facebook group online, Personal Development Without the Fluff, make sure you join that group. It's where we you can ask these kind of questions there. And we'll share private videos, like video answers for these questions in that group. So it's a great place to continue the conversation with us as well.
Yep, I dropped the link for that satoriprime.com/Facebook group. We'll just redirect you over to the Facebook page.
Star cost for programs are anywhere, like Guy said, between $47. All the way up to our highest end program is $120,000. We have $47 programs, $197 programs, $500 programs, $1,000 programs. It really depends where you're at.
Generally speaking, people hear the applications, I would say a good number end up in our group masterclass programs. And those generally are between $2,000 and $3,000, depending on how you get into those classes.
Yeah, and those are 3-month-long, 100-day programs. Yeah.
So they're certainly not the cheapest. They're also not the most expensive. We kind of right down the middle of the road, and absolutely promise you that what people accomplish in 100 days is startling, to say the least, right? Like some of you guys who've even got some little bit of feedback here today, and you can just look through the chat box, like the type of responses to certain insights. What that provides as an opening is like planting a seed in the subconscious that just grows, and that's just, in a few minutes, without even having this kind of interaction, or giving you guys like specific actions to take when certain things show up, or meditative practices and stuff like that. So actually, the one thing I do want to answer is Lisa asked a good question earlier. Okay, yeah. So how do you hone in on this alignment? Best guided meditation? I don't think there's a best guided meditation. Okay, there's no best of anything anywhere in the world. There's what works for you. I don't know how many of you guys like lift or do like squats or have done a squat in your life before. There's a guy on YouTube called Athlete X. He's one of like the top fitness guys in the world. Amazing. Hey Shai, what's up, buddy? Our whispering kid. And I was just watching a video yesterday, and he's saying, my whole life I thought, from all these trainers in the world, you shoulder width apart, and that's how you do a squat. And he was showing all these different things. He goes, at the end of the day, what you need to discover is how does your so that you don't get injured? And he goes, it's way better. So with alignment, it's kind of the same thing. What I believe about good teachers is they show you where to look. They don't tell you what to see. Ilan and I are very, very good at showing you where the doors are. Whether you choose to walk through those doors or not are up to you. I think oftentimes Ilan and I make very compelling cases why you may want to try walking through that, okay? So with alignment, we give you certain exercises so that you can start having a very clear indication, not mentally, because this is always going to throw illusions at you, but through the body system, through the energy system, that you can literally identify what is a yes to you, what feels good, and what is a no, like this. And when you start doing those kinesthetic, some of them are kinesthetic, some of them are a little bit deeper than that. Those are the kind of things that when you start getting that is a really big deal. So I'm going to give you the psychological aspect of this, is that what ends up happening for a lot of us is we have very, very little training around our emotions. Women certainly seem to be a lot better at this than men. Men seem to be programmed around anger and joy. That's pretty much it. Ultimately, what happens is we're all having emotional experiences throughout the day. But if you look underneath your emotions, you might say something like this, because your emotion is, we're giving it a word. We're saying, I'm sad. But what we're identifying as sad is really some kind of sensation inside the body, inside the energy body, okay? So certainly we don't all experience sadness the same way. We don't all experience anger the same way, which means there is no sad. There's just how you've defined that in your body. But what ends up happening for a lot of us is we get contractions in the system. We have certain emotional experiences. And because of the programming, because of things like what we talked about, I don't want to feel poor. When that contraction comes up, we don't go like, woo, great, I'm having a human experience. You go, no, that's the one I don't feel. And then you move on. You try to change your circumstances externally to avoid that particular experience. So what ends up happening is every time you avoid an energy experience inside of your body, the signal that your brain is sending down to the subconscious is, I'm not worthy of this experience. It's not part of my whole, put it over here. And now you keep sending that signal, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. And then you try to start a business or find a relationship. And then you go on a date and the man says that thing and he triggers your I'm not worthy, or the woman says that thing and she triggers your I'm not worthy, or you know, you want $1 million, but then it triggers I'm not worthy. And what ends up happening is a lot of these belief systems that we're trying to go after, they ultimately lead to stress, anxiety, right? Stuff like that in the system, overwhelm. And when you experience stress, overwhelm, and anxiety in the system, what ends up happening is your body responds with automated survival mechanisms that were certain strategies you had as a child to survive things, that by doing them over and over again, literally became automated survival programs. When you're not aware of the survival programs, guess what? Automation is automation. It runs wild. And as you start raising your awareness around it, you're like, oh shit, the program is running. And then you have a choice. You can slow down in the system. And here's the thing, guys. If you can't feel it, you can't heal it, period. I don't care how much understanding, how much intelligence, how many books you've read. There's a really big difference between understanding something and knowing it because you've experienced it. That's the difference between intelligence and philosophy and wisdom, hands down. And it's where most people get stuck because they don't go for the experience. They want to ride the bike by reading a book. They want to travel by going on Google Maps. Trust me, you ain't having those experiences.
I've been to Africa on Google Earth.
There you go. Right? But you've never been in the culture. You don't speak the language. You've never eaten the food. You've never smelled that location. You don't know that place. You have no wisdom around that thing. So this is what we're talking about. What Ilan and I do is we help you understand this so that you can understand the phenomenological, it's always difficult to say, phenomenological things that your mind is doing that are blind spots to most people. When you start identifying blind spots, you start realizing what the fuck is going on in your life. And you start realizing that there are a lot of choices that you didn't know you had that you suddenly have. That brings possibility back in. As the thing starts seeing all that, because you can really will it into your experience, then we can move into your body. Then we can start going to these deeper emotional experiences and point to different things in your system and say, whoa, 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 slow down. You're trying to avoid that. Put that into your experience. You start feeling those things. You start noticing it's not that scary. It's safe. We hold the space for you. We hold the field for you. And those things start naturally healing. We can heal everything in our bodies if we're willing to be with it. Most people are just, they're the opposition to themselves, essentially. So like the reason I didn't go into the Diane thing is because, at least from what I could tell with Diane, is she wants to fix her husband to fix her life. Diane doesn't want to look at herself. And the first conversation to have is one that might be difficult for her to listen to, is that she's responsible for what's happening in that relationship. And until we can get to a point where she sees how she's creating the situation, then there's nothing to talk about yet. And she needs to be open to that. And that's the kind of conversation that gets to be had first. And that needs to be dealt with the mind, because the mind right now is creating an illusion about what her husband's doing. And I'm sure she can build a great case for it that would have all of us going like, holy shit. And at the same time, her trying to change him, which she's probably been doing for a really long time, isn't going to fix anything. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to transform anything. Like the only thing we get to have a say in is how we respond. So, you know, we would look at different things like what she did with her parents and strategies like that she's worked up over the years, and why she met a man that would reflect those same strategies at play. We read each other's scripts, and the people in your life are the people who are like, thanks, I'll keep reading your script. And then you get their script and you keep reading their script and you buy their shit. But that doesn't help anybody transform their lives. So just to kind of give a little feedback on that.
Awesome.
All right,
everyone. I look forward to reading your applications. Again, satoriprime.com/masterclass. And look forward to seeing you guys real soon. Have an amazing day.
All right, everybody. Love you. See you in a few weeks.
Love you, brother.
Bye-bye.